Next question.
Thank you.
Is it okay to baptize a child if the parents are negligent or against it?
Oh my goodness.
Wouldn't
I'm not going there.
living without being baptized be considered an emergency?
So, anybody going to touch that one? There you go.
Thank you.
Yeah, you.
It's not as okay as we might think. Okay, if the baby's about to die, and why not? But you should get the consent of the parents. And if you baptize them and the parents don't have the intention of bringing them up in the faith, then you're just going to create an awkward situation for that child. It's an occasion for you to talk more with the parents. Say, why not? Why not? And press. And then you have to go and pray more, sacrifice more, educate yourself more. That's why you're not convincing them. And then leave it in God's hands. But you can't just go around baptizing against the parents' will.
And we have to realize the church has always taught that infant baptism, the parents play an integral role. They are the primary educators of their children. And unfortunately, in this country, I think, and I could be wrong, we think primary means the most important. No, primary means the first. Okay? And they have to learn the faith from them, all right? And from the godparents. And so I'm telling you right now, even if you have good parents that want to raise the kids Catholic, but I need to have my best friend be the godmother, but she doesn't practice the faith, well, then she can't be the godmother. It's as simple as that. I mean, they have to do that. That's the whole point that the church, even from the very beginning, with St. Peter, was allowing infant baptisms because they realized that the parents were answering and the godparents were answering the questions for them. They were their proxy for the child. I mean, so work with the parents. I mean, evangelize the parents. I talked about that in my talk. It is so important that we get off our duffs and get out there and evangelize, despite what Bergoglio said yesterday, which infuriated Father Altman when I showed it to him. You know, he basically said that it's venom to go out there to spread the faith. He used those words.
He did?
You know, and we have to be careful of that, you know, because we are called to evangelize.
You want to say something?
Actually, I do.
Okay, excellent. There you go. I've been waiting patiently.
I want to say that I agree with the fathers, although there are stories of, I know personally a person who was baptized in secret, and he did come around to the faith in his adulthood, but this is not the norm, and this is not what we make our rules by. But if you're anxious about a child, you can get them to wear a scapular early. I happen to believe absolutely in what Our Lady said. Whosoever dies wearing the scapular will not suffer eternal fire. Like, if that's the only thing that you can do, then to work that way. Father No, who used to work with Father Gruner years ago in the Fatima Center, he used to say, I have never known someone to put on the scapular and not die a good death. And that was certainly true with my father, who was a deathbed convert. But a priest came down. I mean, my father conducted the choir for us for so many years, and all this pro bono work, and he was there and everything, but he never converted. But it was only like 12 days before he died. A priest had come down ahead of time and put the scapular on him. And a few days later, my father was received into the church. That's an adult story. But if you have goodwill, you know, the parents are not going to care, and you can get a child to wear a scapular, or even get the parents to wear the scapular, and let Our Lady do the work there, then just trust in Our Lady there.
I don't know if there was a follow-up or not.
Yeah. Could someone explain what would happen to the child if they did not get the Catholic education they should get because someone baptized them into the Catholic faith?
That's just it. If somebody baptized them in the faith against the parents' wishes, now you're obligated that child receives a Catholic education. You're doing a disservice to the child.
I know.
So,
And
Explain that better, because
there's a permanent character on the soul from baptism and confirmation and ordination. And that's a greater joy in heaven, a greater pain in hell. Now, to think someone's baptized without knowing it and goes to hell, you could think, well, it wasn't their fault. You know, didn't even know they were baptized. But that's going to be more of a shame for them and a pain there. Why cause that for anybody? But there are, I know as well, of miraculous cases of people. Jewish lady, she was baptized as an infant, and then 20 years later walked into a Catholic church and converted like that. But anyway.
Since you asked about it, I'll just share a historical story. This is real. A lot of Catholics don't know it. Again, it is dangerous to do that. So it happened in the Papal States when Pope Pius IX was Pope. And it happened that I believe it was a child of Jewish parents, I believe it was. And the lady who came to take care of the child was in fact a Catholic. And the baby was about to die. And so she did this baptism in secret against their wishes. So what happens? Well, the baptism is, of course, sort of like made known. And Pope Pius IX, you have to understand now that we're living in a time where church and state are united. And so Pope Pius is not just, obviously, the Pope and, let's say, the spiritual authority and head there. He's also the temporal authority. And all the laws of the state are Catholic laws. And that's how it's supposed to be. What we were saying earlier, Christ the King. And so Pius IX had to make a very difficult decision. First, he tried to prevail upon the parents to allow the child to be raised Catholic, telling them now that the church had an obligation, and in this case also the state had an obligation to raise the child Catholic. Well, the parents refused, and they didn't want to. So now it also becomes a state matter. So in the end, it is sad that the child actually had to be removed from the family. And the Pope did wind up raising him, taking that responsibility on himself. See, somebody's got to take that responsibility. Since he was the proper head of state, he took it on, raised the child. The child actually lived a great life, became a priest. He got ordained later on. He was very grateful for the life he got. But the part of the story also is that this was used as propaganda by the revolutionaries, by the Freemasonic elements in revolutionary Italy. And it is one of the main things that sort of led, let's say, some of the public opinion in Italy against the Pope and against the church, and really led to the stripping of the Pope's temporal authority. Okay, so in 1870, the revolutionaries led by Vittorio Emanuele and Garibaldi and all of them, they came in, they took away the Papal States. Vatican I ended before it should have ended, and the Pope became a prisoner in the Vatican. And then the popes had to suffer for many, many years. And really, the popes are still suffering. And Our Lady talks about how the Pope has much to suffer. So the popes are still suffering. You know, the end result of that is that Pius XI is making the Lateran Treaty with Mussolini so that they're not prisoners anymore, but now he's giving up the church's temporal authority and the Pope's temporal authority. All of that is traced back. One of the key elements of that is this story. So a lot of things happen from it that maybe weren't expected. And you really got to be careful with something like that. And the popes were very strong. They upheld church doctrine, knowing it could fall apart. Just like when the Pope wouldn't give Henry VIII as an annulment, he knew very well England might break away and become its own church and take away countless souls. But he had to maintain church doctrine. That's what real popes do. They maintain church doctrine no matter the cost, but the cost can be very high. So, I mean, these are matters we cannot take lightly, and we probably shouldn't be taking that upon ourselves.